Every day, aspiring musicians dream of getting out of their garages and taking their songs on the road for the world to hear. But not everyone's successful at making a living as a gigging musician. There's a right way and a wrong way to navigate the music business, and whether you're looking to book your first gig or plotting an extensive world tour, this show will help you demystify the live music industry by providing first-hand insights from artists and professionals who are doing it at the highest levels. Hey there, I'm Tony Neely, and this is the Book Your Band Podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Book Your Band Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony Neely. So thankful that you are taking a little time out of your day to listen to this show. I really sincerely appreciate it. And I hope that you're learning a lot, and I hope that as a young or novice musician, the things that we go over on these episodes are actually helping you to at least grow in your comfort level, to get out of your house, to go out and play, and start building that music career that you're really hoping to have for yourself. If you listen to my last episode of the Book Your Band Podcast, you got to hear an awesome conversation with one of my lifelong heroes, not just music hero, but just one of my heroes in general, Derek Webb. He was so kind and so generous with his time to be willing to record an episode with me, and as I mentioned, he was my dream guest, so it was a very surreal moment for me. But the theme of that discussion really matched a lot of what you, the listeners, have been asking me about on social media, and that's about house shows. I think that we are in a point where people are maybe getting a little disgruntled with playing some traditional venues. Maybe they're having trouble getting their feet in the door, or they are honestly just struggling to make it, to make being a musician financially viable through playing these traditional venues. In the show, Derek talked about how he had a failed tour when he was doing his Stockholm Syndrome album anniversary tour. And at that point, he told his management team and his booking agency, never ask me to play traditional venues again. I'm only playing house shows. And based off of some of his comments from the show and some of the things I've said online, people have been sending me a lot of messages. Hey, how do I make house shows work? How do I book them? What should I prepare for them? What's it like? And so I thought I would dedicate today's episode to talking all about house shows. So this is going to be like House Shows 101. Why choose to play house shows? Well, there are multiple reasons. Derek actually in the episode gave a few. He said for him, a big thing was that he realized that he is in the intimacy business. And when he was playing mid-cap or even large venues, I mean, I've seen him play sold-out show at the Ryman Auditorium, he said that it feels more like a monologue. The musician is on stage, they're raised above everyone else. The lights make it where they can't see anyone, and he's performing this monologue, this performance piece where really the band doesn't want to hear or interact with the audience anyway, aside from applause between songs. And Derek said that's just not the business he's about. He loves being in small spaces with fans, and they can interact with him. He actually played a show in my living room. About 25 people came, and he was taking questions. He was joking around with us. People were reminiscing about how his lyrics or his songs have impacted their lives. And Derek had said that's just not something that you experience when you're playing on a large stage. And so that's one reason people really like playing house shows, is it's a lot more intimate. Second, they're easy. I mean, just being honest, we're going to go through this here in a little bit, but like Derek, he travels around. Literally when he showed up to my house, he had a gig bag with an acoustic guitar in it, and he had a small like carry-on size suitcase that he had his merch in. That was it. He didn't have a PA, he didn't have lights. He literally showed up at my house. We had a table ready for him to set his merch up on. He popped his guitar stand and music stand out, and that was it. That was his setup. So it was super easy. The third reason people really like playing house shows is you can honestly make really, really good money playing a house show. If you listen back to the episode where I had
Adam and Cherish Hamby of the Dark Waters Project on, they talked about having friends who were pulling six figures only playing house shows. Derek didn't get into numbers with me, but he did say that he makes significantly more money playing house shows than he did playing mid-cap venues because he doesn't have any overhead. He doesn't have a crew to pay. He doesn't have to pay any venue fees like paying for front of house or anything like that. He gets to keep all of his merch sales, where one of the begrudgingly growing trends for musicians are venues taking cuts of artist merch sales. And he said, so I get to keep all of that for me. So if you've never booked a house show before, there's really 4 primary ways that you can book a house show as a musician. First, you can host your own. I mean, if you've got the extra space at your place, why not use it? You can transform your living room, your garage, your backyard, whatever, into a music venue. Derek made it really clear that he considers the term house show kind of a misnomer because he really thinks of it more so as an intimate venue that is a non-traditional music venue. So he said that on his tours, yeah, he'll play in people's living rooms or whatever, but he also will play in art galleries. He's played in yoga studios. He'll play in church fellowship halls that invite him to come in. So it doesn't have to be a house. If you have a really cool space that you could get 20, 30, 40, 50 people into to sit around and listen to you play music, you could host your own house show. It's also nice because if you've never played house shows before, hosting your own will give you complete control over who comes to your first one, which means you could just invite some of your friends that you're already comfortable with. They can show up and you can just try it out. You may find that you feel more comfortable with that whole segregationist, separate, performing a monologue up on a stage kind of setting, or you may find that you love the back and forth, the discussion between songs, so on and so forth. And so for some people, hosting their own with just their friends, family, may be a lot more comfortable way to get your feet wet. The second way that you can book a house show is to network within your community. Use whatever personal connections you have. If you have a friend or an acquaintance with a great space, like I said, it could be an art gallery, it could be a cool backyard, it could be really anything, then you can ask them, hey, I'm wanting to try playing some house shows. Would you mind hosting one? Maybe you can invite some friends, put it up on social media, whatever, and I will show up at your house and play a show. Third, look for local opportunities. If you get onto Facebook, if you search online, and you just type in like house shows in your city or house concerts in your city, a lot of times you're going to find social media groups where there are people in your local community already hosting shows. I live right outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and there's already multiple people in this awesome city who have a reputation of hosting fantastic shows, some of which have had artists go all the way to playing at Red Rocks and the Ryman and stuff like that after having played in their living room. So these are great people who are already hosting shows. They already understand the setup. They already are doing marketing. They already have a built-in audience. Reach out to them. Send them your EPK. Let them know, hey, I live in town. I've been playing at these venues. I've been doing open mics here or there. And then say, I know that you host house shows. I would love to have the opportunity to come. And start building that relationship locally. The fourth way that you can book shows is actually to register on national platforms. There are actually national repositories of people who go online and say, I host house shows. If you'd like to play, here's my contact information. And you can start building that relationship that way on a more national scale. This is great, not only for searching regionally, but also starting to search nationally if you want to be like Derek and plan entire tours based around the house show model. Probably one of the best known resources like this is concertsinyourhome.org. I'll be sure to put a link to that website in the show notes, but you can actually go on and sign up as an artist who's looking to be connected with people who host shows, or you can yourself, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I would love to have people coming to my house and playing shows. You can actually sign up and register to host shows on there. It's a great database, great way of meeting some people, and hopefully getting you started playing some house shows. So now that we know the 4 different ways you can book your first house shows, let's talk about how you actually get paid, how you make money playing house shows. Because again, on this show, we're all about the music business, not the music hobby. So we're not just talking about going out and playing for free. We're not just talking about going out and playing for exposure. We're talking about going out to pay your bills. That you are trading your talents, you're trading your songwriting ability, you're trading your musicianship for cash to make your livelihood. So there are really 4 primary ways that you can get paid doing house shows. First is you can set a flat fee. You can negotiate a flat fee with the host that works the same as like setting a guarantee with a venue. You could say, I will do a 90-minute set at your house for $350. I will do a 1-hour set for $500, whatever your rate is. And that's going to help making your financial planning a little bit more straightforward. But I will tell you, outside of being a larger artist, that's probably going to turn off a lot of people who want to host you for a house show, unless they're already a big fan of your music and they just want to pay to have you come play at their private event. So maybe if Jim Bob is a huge fan of yours and he lives 2 hours away and he wants you to come play for his birthday party, then you could say, yeah, Jim Bob, I would love to come. My set rate is $500 for an hour show. And you know what? Jim Bob may indeed pay you that $500 to come drive 2 hours and play the hour show. Second way you could do it is to sell tickets. This is actually what Derek Webb does. For me, when I hosted Derek for a house show at my place, it cost me nothing. I had one of my lifetime heroes in my living room performing some of the songs that helped shape my worldview, and it cost me nothing. But he did sell tickets. He sold tickets on his own. He wasn't going through Live Nation. He wasn't going through Ticketmaster or any of that. Again, one of the reasons he wanted to start doing this model was so he could maximize the amount of money that he gets to keep compared to when he was playing traditional venues. And so he sold tickets through his website. It was $20 a ticket, and you pay your $20 to him, and however many tickets he sells, that's how much money he gets for the night. He did set a minimum, you had to sell at least 20 tickets. He said he'll normally play house shows with between 20 and 100 people. So if you're selling tickets at $20 a pop, that's actually some great money, especially compared to if you're playing small cap or mid cap venues, where you may play an entire set and maybe get out with $75 to $100 depending on where you're playing. And again, the other nice thing is that he keeps all of that money. He's not having to pay a crew. He's not having to pay for the front of house. He's just selling tickets, and that's how he's making his cash. Third way that you can do this, and it's one of the models that I see being really, really popular here in the Chattanooga area, and talking to some of my friends in Nashville, it seems to be popular there as well, is a suggested donation amount. So basically, they will say, hey, we're not selling tickets. There's no cover charge. However, we have a suggested donation amount of $15, of $20. There's one venue that primarily hosts house shows here in Chattanooga. They have a suggested donation amount of $35. So if they only get 10 people who come to the show, that artist is making $350 for playing an hour show. That's a heck of a lot better, again, than playing a lot of mid-cap rooms. I really like the suggested donation. I probably would say if you're a newer artist, don't start with $35, but say suggested donation of $15, suggested donation of $20. And what you'll find is some people will pay a little less, some people will pay more. And so I really like that model because it shows that you as the artist trust the people who are coming to see you to help provide the financial backing so that you can keep making the art that you make. So the 2 ways that I see people do this, one is they just have a box. Derek actually does this with his merch. And he says, we're just kind of working on the trust system that if you're buying my merch, you're just going to pay what I'm asking you to pay for it and you'll leave it in the box. And he actually goes ahead and he puts some change in there. So if, he's selling vinyl for $35 or whatever, and you put 40, you can just pull a 5 out. We're on the trust system. The other thing that artists will do is just have their Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, whatever QR codes up. And when somebody comes in the door, they see a sign that says suggested donation for this show is $12, and they can just scan real quick and they'll send you the $12 and it goes straight to your account. And I found that the house shows I've gone to, people tend to be very, very generous, because when they're coming to a house show, they're coming specifically to see you. A lot of house shows are going to be BYOB, so they're willing to give you a few extra dollars or buy some extra merch or whatever, because they're not having to buy drinks. They're not having to pay a cover at the door. They're not having to pay parking or whatever. So I like the suggested donation. The last way you make money is through merch sales. If you're playing house shows, please have merch. House shows create a really unique opportunity for merch sales because of that intimate setting. It's one thing to show up on a Thursday night at a venue, see a band you've never heard of, and be like, I don't really want to buy a sticker from them for $3 or whatever. But if you've just spent a couple hours with somebody and you stood around talking with them and they shared stories and you're in that really intimate setting, people tend to want to buy more from you. Derek shared, and I've also talked to several other people that do house shows, they tend to sell a lot more merch when they're playing house shows than they do playing small cap or mid cap venues, because of that intimacy element. People have had an experience with you and they want to take part of that experience home. And the easiest way to do that is through merch. Derek also mentioned that he can also charge a few more dollars for merch when he's doing house shows compared to the venues, because again, people are willing to pay a little bit more of a premium for that more intimate experience that they had. So set a flat fee, which is like a guarantee that you'd get at any kind of other venue. You can sell tickets ahead of time, which is what Derek does. You can encourage donations and have suggested donations, which is really here on the Book Your Band podcast what I'm going to suggest that you do. And then you're also going to make money by selling merch, because when people come to house shows, they want to buy merch from you. Hey there, I hope you're loving this episode so far and are getting some really helpful tips to build your career as a live musician. If you're a musician who's new to the live music industry and you're looking for step-by-step assistance to help you book your first paying gigs, then you're going to love my 5-day Garage to Stage crash course. In this free online course, we cover my Perform framework that will tell you everything you need to know to get started booking gigs, including how to start making contacts in the live music industry, how to put together an EPK, how to contact talent buyers, what to do the day of your gig, and how to keep your momentum going after your encore. To sign up, just go to my website at www.bookyourbandpodcast.com and fill out the short registration form. Again, this is a 100% free training, but spaces are limited, so sign up today. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Now, there are some challenges and pitfalls that can come with playing house shows, just like with playing any kind of other traditional venue as well. First, is there going to be some space limitations. If you're just playing in somebody's living room, you may not be able to get a full band in there. If you are used to playing a full band show and you show up to somebody's house and there's a couch and a love seat and a recliner in there, you may not be able to get everything in. So be prepared to play a stripped down set. This is not only going to make it more comfortable for your audience, because unless you're playing like a punk or hardcore show, people sitting in the living room don't want to hear screaming amps and a full drum set. The second thing that you have to realize with these is there are going to be noise concerns. This isn't a venue. This is somebody's living room. This is somebody's neighborhood. This is somebody's business. And so you have to be very respectful to the neighbors. A lot of times, being in residential areas, they will have curfews. And so playing acoustic sets are fantastic. Even if you are a full band, make sure you have some acoustic instruments. If you have a drummer, make sure he has a cajon or something. Put the bass player on an acoustic bass, or bring in a really small bass amp, nothing more than 40, 50 watts probably for somebody's living room. And that's going to help you avoid any of those noise complaints. It's one thing when you're playing in like a college frat band or whatever and cops get called to a frat party on you. It's something completely different when you have been invited into somebody's home to perform and you're not being cognizant of their neighbors' rights to have a peaceful environment and you're blaring away. You have to learn how to take those noise issues into consideration. Treat others the way you want to be treated. You don't want your neighbors having a crazy party at 11 o'clock at night or whatever. So if you're playing a house show or you're hosting a house show, just be mindful of the people around you. Like when Derek played at my house, we have a community listserv, and like a month ahead of time, I was sending out messages saying, hey, we're going to have extra vehicles in the neighborhood. I was working with Derek's management team saying, hey, when you start releasing tickets to people, make sure that they know not to block anybody's driveways or whatever. Just having that little bit of concern saved lots of headaches. So as not only for you as an artist, but if you ever decide to host a show, make sure that you just be a good neighbor. That's what it all comes down to, right? Now, when you start talking about the logistics of playing a show, there are a few things that you need to be able to communicate with the hosts ahead of time so that you're prepared and they're prepared. First of all, you need to talk about equipment needs. If you need some kind of sound equipment, or a lot of times if you need access to plugs, or like Derek, he asked for a table to set up his merch or whatever, you need to have those conversations ahead of time. Don't wait until you're loading in for the show to say, hey, we need 2 extension cords. We need a table that's at least 6 feet long. Have those conversations ahead of time. Second, you need to already talk about your load-in details. You need to coordinate with whoever's hosting so that you know where to load in, what time you're going to load in, what the load in, load out process is going to look like as far as, is there going to be anyone there to help you carry gear? Do you have a box of vinyl that you're trying to save your back? Will there be somebody to help you carry it? Are there going to be steps that you have to go up and down? Where should you park? That's a huge thing. So get all of these load in, load out details ironed out before the day of the show. Next thing is make sure that you're prepared for anything unexpected that could occur. You know the old saying, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and that's absolutely true with house shows. One of the biggest places where we see this happen with house shows are outdoor events. So be sure ahead of time you say, hey, I see that you're booking me. You want me to play outside. Do you have a backup plan for if there's a storm or something that rolls through? So be sure to think through, what are some of those issues that may arise and already be working with the host ahead of time to have some plans for those. Now, if you've never been to or played a house show, there's 3 things as far as performance goes that you need to consider. First of all, remember, this is not a monologue. This is going to be engagement. Share personal anecdotes, talk to the audience, invite them to sing along. Remember that this is less of a standalone monologue performance, and this is more of an intimate experience with them. So think about ways that you can engage the audience. Second thing to consider, and I talked about this briefly earlier, how are you going to play songs in this context different from how you might at a traditional venue? Now, if you're already just a solo acoustic artist, there's not going to be a big change. It's going to be easy. I'm just going to go and play my songs. But if you are normally a 4-piece or 5-piece rock band, you need to be able to rework your songs. And I will tell you firsthand, because I've played some house shows and private events like this, people love hearing these stripped down versions. Don't be afraid to go back to watch like old episodes of MTV Unplugged or whatever. The loud versions were awesome, but everybody heard those. The people that were sitting in those rooms heard them performed in a way that nobody else had ever experienced them before. Example for me with that was when Derek, the last song that he played at our house was a song called I'm Coming Home. which for Caedmon's Call is a really upbeat song. There's lots going on with it, lots of production. The band had 2 drummers and stuff. When he played it at our house, it was slow and sentimental. And even though I had listened to that song literally hundreds of times, the lyrics hit me in a way that night that almost took my breath away because I'd never sat with what they're actually saying in that song. So for you as a band, you need to consider how you're going to rework your songs for this environment. The last consideration for enhancing the house show experience is going to be making sure that you follow up. If you don't have an email list going, make sure that you have paper out or whatever at these shows where people can sign up for your mailing list, because these are going to be people that you get to know by name. You're going to know that Susie from Tullahoma drove over to come hear you play. You're going to know that Robert's wife brought him to the show to celebrate his birthday. Follow up with those people. Again, the Dark Waters Project talked about how when they are playing shows, they're really, and they were talking about playing small cap, mid cap venues, they're really trying to connect with 10% of the audience. Because they said 90% of the audience is going to show up, buy a drink, it's just a night out. But they said if we can get that 10% of the audience, and we get to know their names, we get to know their stories, they get to know us, we get them on our mailing list, and we follow up with them, said that's how we make lifelong fans. Because we're not just musicians playing in a bar on Thursday night. They said we're Adam and Cherish Hamby, and we know each other on a first name basis. And so when you're playing house shows, it's not just going to be 10% of a venue. It's going to be potentially every single person in that room you can have that experience with, that when you follow up, you send them an email saying, hey, you came to my house show at Jim Bob's the other night. Thanks so much for coming. I really enjoyed talking with you about blah, blah, blah. They're going to say, oh my goodness, that artist cares about me. They know I exist. And they took the time to follow up and talk with me. And I guarantee you, if you sell an album, they're going to be buying it. If you have a t-shirt up for sale on your website, they're going to buy it. Next time you roll through town, they're going to be the first ones in line to get tickets because they weren't just a face in the crowd. That is not an experience that you get at other types of music venues. So this has been just a quick rundown, but I hope it gives you some clarity on some of the questions that people have been asking me on social media about playing house shows. Those questions primarily have been booked around, hey, where can I have these? Well, you can have them anywhere. It doesn't have to be a house. It just needs to be some kind of non-traditional music venue that is willing to host you. People have asked, well, how do I get these booked? Well, you can host your own. You can do it through a friend. You can search locally online for people that are already having house shows, or you can join a national registry of house shows. People wondered, how am I getting paid? Well, again, we said you can set a flat fee. You can sell tickets. You can do the suggested donations, which is what I encourage you to do. Then you also make money by selling merch. People have wanted to know, what are some of the challenges? We talked about some space limitations, the noise concerns, accessibility. People have asked about logistics. So we talked about having everything mapped out ahead of time, from your equipment needs to your load-in detail, preparing for anything unexpected, especially when it comes to weather for those house shows you're booked for outdoor settings. And then we talked about ways of engaging your audience to make sure that you are making it an intimate experience for them, not just a performance, that you are arranging some of your songs maybe in ways that they wouldn't hear them in other settings, and then making sure that you follow up to build that relationship, to keep that ongoing relationship, and that's how you're going to develop lifelong fans out of playing house shows. If you have any more questions about house shows, go ahead and drop those in the comments. I will be glad to help answer whatever ones that I can. Also, if you would be willing to take just a moment to share this show with another musician that you know who you think would benefit learning about the ins and outs of house shows, I would really appreciate that. As always, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.